Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and normally, and I do mean normally, when I cover crime stories on this channel, I try to pick a crime story that is tied into some kind of policy because there's a lot of horrible things that happen across this nation of 330 plus million people, and honestly, you need some kind of standard for what stories you're going to try to elevate from local stories to national stories. However, today I stumbled across a video that talked about a dog owner being charged with attempted murder, and I didn't quite understand it, so I clicked on it, and what I ultimately ended up finding was absolutely horrible in every possible way. At first, it became clear that this was a pit bull related story, but really, when you look into it a little bit further than that, you realize that it's not so much about the guy using his pit bull to attack someone, which did happen, but it's the fact that this is something he did intentionally over an incredibly stupid and petty reason, and now a man is fighting for his life because criminals feel like they can do whatever in the city of New York. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
The manager of a pizza place in Manhattan is in critical condition after a customer's pit bull attacked him last night.
So I just want to point out a few things. One, the way that the local news introduces this story is not accurate in any way, shape, or form. They're like, a pizza manager is in critical condition because a man's pit bull just attacked him. It just so happened to happen that way, and there's really nothing we can do about it. But the fact of the matter is, this was an intentional, malicious attack. The suspect in this instance, which is called Tyshawn Watson, is being charged with attempted murder, and there's a reason he's being charged that way.
Police say it happened at Roma Pizza on 5th Avenue, Chelsea. It began with the customer coming into the restaurant with a pit bull not on a leash. It quickly escalated from there, but some quick-thinking employees helped police make an arrest.
Look, this is going to be one of those videos where I harp on the tone, I harp on the language that is being used in the local news segment, because it does not accurately convey what went down. I mean, just think about what they just said right there. Some quick thinking from the employees allowed police to make an arrest. It makes it sound like it's a happily ever after kind of ending, but the fact of the matter is, this story is horrific, and the quick thinking by employees is not something that could have even potentially saved this guy's life, because he is still in critical condition. He still could pass away from this, and it's all over nothing. This was some dumb ghetto hood behavior, and it could have cost an innocent man his life, and it's absolutely disgusting.
Moments ago, detectives walked Tyshawn Watson out of this precinct. The 35-year-old is now charged with attempted murder and assault. You can see in this video his left arm is bleeding and it's wrapped in gauze. We're told his own dog bit him. One of the many disturbing details in this case is that those working in the pizzeria tell me after Watson's pit bull attacked the victim, Watson was overheard telling his dog he would not get fed because he didn't complete his orders, he didn't do his job.
So already, once we get to the reporter on the ground, something is a little bit different than what was presented. Rather than a random dog attack at a pizzeria, we end up seeing that this was in fact an intentional attack, egged on by the owner against this guy who's just managing at Roma Pizza in Chelsea, New York. And the rationale behind this, the motivation for this, the thing that might have cost an innocent man who's just trying to do his job, his life, is absurd. It's disgusting. It's ridiculous. And what do you expect from these kind of stupid crimes in the first place? But this one, in my opinion, is especially bad.
Detectives were back at Roma Pizza today. That's where this unfolded just before 10 last night, both inside and outside of the restaurant on 5th between 19th and 20th Streets. Friends tell me Zach El Sharif is in the ICU. He can't speak. The 47-year-old is in critical condition.
Again, I give a lot of credit to this reporter on the ground because she gives you some of the real information. The victim in this particular case, 47-year-old man, can't speak. He's in the intensive care unit. Again, as of right now in this moment, we are unsure if he is going to survive this vicious and heinous attack. Not really the upbeat story about quick thinking employees, and also not really something that is indicated and conveyed to you by dog owner charged with attempted murder.
He is the night manager, and when Watson came in with his dog off the leash. Zach told him he had to eat outside. Words were exchanged and things got physical. Watson allegedly punched Zach over and over in the head, knocking him to the ground. The dog then bit Zach's arm and leg. At one point, a kitchen worker tried to break it up. The dog turned on him. It spilled outside onto the sidewalk, where Eli, a worker who didn't want to show his face, tells me the vicious assault continues.
So let's be clear about this. The dog in this particular case, even though it's a pit bull, even though it was off the leash, is kind of incidental to what happened here. This man is not in the ICU just because he was bit by the dog. What ended up happening in this particular case is a man comes into a food establishment looking for pizza. He doesn't have his dog on the leash because, of course, rules don't apply to him. He's Tyshawn Watson, obviously an innocent angel victim of circumstances and society. So the owner tells him, hey, look, you can't have this big, possibly and very likely, I'm going to find out in a few minutes, vicious dog in here with no leash. So please, if you want to make your order, that's totally fine, but you got to eat outside. So of course, Tyshawn Watson, in his infinite wisdom, decides that he's going to scream at this guy. He's going to start a fight over this, because how dare you expect him to obey the rules of society that every other person has to obey, especially when that puts you, the restaurant, the establishment, at risk for health code violations because you have an animal in your restaurant. And yes, New York City health inspectors go super hard on these kind of things. So of course he decides to physically assault him, but it's not enough that he sucker punches him. It's not enough that this guy, who by the way is about 35 years old, gets the jump on him. His dog starts savagely biting his arm and his leg. He's beating him, and then they say it spilled out into the outside, but in reality it sounds like he was dragged out into the outside where the beating continued. But remember, this all started over this guy bringing his dog in with no leash, them not even having a problem serving him, but just requesting that he eat with this big vicious dog outside. And as you heard, he was yelling out commands to his dog to bite him more, to be more vicious, to be more monstrous. And again, it's over nothing.
The guy even stumped his head after Zach was on the floor bleeding. He stumped him 3 times in the head.
I'm not saying that the dog isn't dangerous. I'm not saying that the dog isn't vicious. I'm not saying that a dog trained to attack people at his owner's command like that doesn't need to be put down. Believe me, I'm not one of these people who puts dogs above people. But the fact of the matter is, the argument could have been over anything. The dog was just a catalyst in this particular case, and the reason this guy is fighting for his life in the ICU is because Tyshawn Watson, if reports are to be believed, it is currently alleged right now, attacked him because he sucker punched him, because he continued to beat him, and then when he was on the ground, when the fight was already over, this fight that should have never began, he decided to stomp him out in the head repeatedly as his dog was biting up his arm and his leg. That's what this is about. That's who this person is. That's what he decided to do. This is about a criminal who, by the way, doesn't actually have an arrest history in the city of New York. According to reports, he has some arrests back in Virginia, but not in New York. So this is not a bail situation. Like I said, this is not due to broader policy. But what it is due to is an entitled thug who decided that somebody's life was worth less than him actually having to put a leash on his dog, than him actually having to eat a slice of pizza outside rather than bring his dog into the place. A standard practice for a restaurant was too much for this individual, so somebody could die over this. And by the way, this happened in Manhattan. Right now, this person is charged with attempted murder. He's also charged with assault, but do not be surprised if going forward, those charges are reduced. Remember the district attorney for the borough of Manhattan. It's Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg loves criminal types like this. He loves not prosecuting anyone for anything. In fact, if this pizza guy would have taken a pizza cutter or some kind of knife and stabbed his attacker, killing him, then that guy would have been facing criminal charges. And somewhere in Fat Alvin's head right now in this moment, he might be thinking of a way to charge the person in the ICU with some kind of crime, like disrespecting an innocent angel with his pit bull. Because honestly, this is how New York works. You pay attention to the charges up front, but over half the time, the charges are reduced from felony to misdemeanor. Over half the time, the sentence being asked for by the district attorney, Alvin Bragg, who, by the way, operates as a second defense attorney in most of the cases, they end up getting changed or augmented in some way that benefits the criminal. The sentence is reduced, all these different various things that his office is notorious for. So again, pay attention to this moment right now where he is currently charged with attempted murder, and how if this guy ends up dying, the victim in this case, it should be upgraded to murder, and what it ultimately ends up becoming. Maybe it's a manslaughter 3, you know, he only gets 8 years and half of that is served at home arrest with an ankle monitor that he is allowed to cut off instantaneously. Maybe Alvin Bragg says, wow, we owe you money because we had to put your dog down because you trained it to be a vicious animal, so let us give you a check because you're such an innocent baby angel and we can't ever hold you accountable. These are the kind of people that you get off the streets once they offend. This is obviously way too far, and I don't give a damn if this person recovers. I care for him and I care for his family, but in terms of the charges, we should not see a reduction. We should only see a potential upgrade to homicide charges, to murder charges, but we should not see a downgrade to just assault if this guy ends up recovering and the max you could charge is attempted murder. But chances are we definitely will, because that's what the Manhattan District Attorney's Office does. That's what Bragg ran on. That's who he is.
Imagine this could have been anybody else, a kid maybe. You know, dogs being unleashed in the city I think it's not correct. He's been working here for a year. He's a manager, so he knows. You know, he's taking care of everybody here and there. But everybody's worried about him. You know, we just working. We're doing our job. We're not outside looking for trouble, anything like that, you know? We're here making our day, trying to make a living.
So I want to point out a few things. First and foremost, look, these guys are in shock. Somebody that they know, somebody that they've worked with for over a year, a night manager, ended up being attacked. He could potentially die. So I'm not going to grade them on what they said at this moment in time. I will point out that the issue isn't the dog on the leash, although, of course, the suspect in this particular case was wrong on that, not having the dog on the leash. The issue is the vicious and heinous attack that went down. But like he said, they're just working. They're not trying to be outside starting problems, starting trouble, or anything like that. They're making pizza. They're literally there to serve you. And instead, this manager was greeted with a potentially deadly encounter, but at least bare minimum, a near-death encounter. And that is not right. It's not moral. But also very notable is the fact that these guys are afraid to show their identity. The reason people are afraid to show their identity is because they fear retaliation from the criminals, co-conspirators, gang members, whatever they might be a part of. And it is a sad state of affairs where you have somebody who's nearly killed by somebody who's 100% in the wrong in this particular case, and you still have to fear retaliation from his buddies who are all pissed off about this particular case. It's absurd in every possible way, but that's where we're at right now. We have a story presented to us as just a dog attack. Dog owner facing charges, but the fact of the matter is, the dog was the second most vicious actor in this particular case, because Tyshawn Watson, I know it's alleged right now, but assuming it's proved in the future with all these witnesses, was the most vicious. His actions were the most disgusting and the most inhumane.
And listen to this. After the assault, Watson went back inside the pizzeria. His dog was with him. Workers were able to run to the kitchen, lock that door, run through the basement, back up to the ground level, and lock the front door from the outside, trapping the suspect and his dog inside the restaurant. That's where he was arrested.
Now look, right here, this is where the employees get credit for their quick thinking. They ended up trapping the suspect and his vicious dog in this particular place. But if you thought things couldn't get more annoying, if you thought things couldn't get worse, if you thought things couldn't get more objectively horrific, there's this quote from the suspect right here, who again, by the way, was trapped in the pizza place with the dog. So even though I'm saying alleged, there's a pretty good indication that this is definitely the guy. Let's be clear about that.
Just moments ago, as Watson left this precinct, he had a message to the victim saying his heart goes out to him.
His heart goes out to him. His heart goes out to the victim in this particular case. Wouldn't it be nice if, your heart actually went out to the victim in this particular instance if, I don't know, didn't attack him, didn't viciously beat him, didn't sucker punch him, hit him in the face repeatedly, order your dog to bite him, and then get mad at your dog for not biting him hard enough? If you didn't drag him outside, continue to beat him, and then stomp him in the head multiple times, then come back in the pizzeria because you wanted more action, you wanted to fight more people, now your heart goes out to them? Absolute nonsense. Honestly, I'm being 100% serious about this. The vicious nature of this case and the fact that it was over nothing is a solid case for the death penalty. If this person dies, I have no qualms at all whatsoever about Mr. Watson facing a jury of his peers with the potential for a death sentence in that particular case. And the fact that he's like, my heart goes out to you now, when it's absolutely worth nothing, when this guy's still in the hospital, when he may not recover, makes it worse, not better. This feigned remorse is disgusting to me in every possible way, especially since Fat Alvin Bragg is likely to take this into account when he reduces the charges to misdemeanor walking your dog without a leash. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like this video, then show them by leaving a like. Subscribe for more content. Follow me on all my social medias. Let me know if your heart goes out to me. This has been me talking about an absurd case in New York City. Till next time.